Holy shit, I'm still alive. Yes, it's been a while since I've done a video. Work's been crazy. I've been waiting on parts. Had a couple other things going on. But I have made some progress. I've intended to make some videos, but I've been just so slammed with work. And I only get sporadic chances to work on the truck. And I've been waiting on parts. I got a pile of parts, and I was waiting on one little thing to show up before I could do the rest of it. So you guys have build stuff, you know how it is. But we'll do a quick overview here. The underhood mechanical of the engine is probably, I'd say, 99% done. The turbos are all plumbed up. The exhaust is done. The cooling system's done and actually full of antifreeze. Power steering hoses are on. I know you can't see, but I went with braided stainless cover PTFE lines, all AN fittings, all the way to the rack. So no more homemade bent steel line and patched into the factory line nonsense. I got rid of all that. The boost control solenoids are wired in and 95% plumbed in. I still need to run the source line to the back where I'll have compressed air. Here you can see my dual 3-port MAC valves. I've had a couple people ask me how this is set up versus a traditional 1 3-port or 1 4-port setup. To me, this is the best way of doing it, especially if you run twin turbos. I think it's more precise, and I think it's faster responding than doing a single bleed style single solenoid setup. Each solenoid has an inlet. These are your inlets, and they got 2 outlets. I'll have a compressed air. You can have CO2. A lot of racers use CO2 because it's a lot less complicated than having a compressed air tank. But this thing's going to be on the street more than it'll be on the racetrack. I think compressed air will be a little easier, and it's not really that much heavier than a CO2 bottle. But the compressed air will come in here. Both these ports are plugged off on these solenoids. This is the fill solenoid. This is marked fill. And if you look, I don't know if you can see on there, but these are marked. So let's say I got my wastegates here. This is plumbed to the solenoids. It tees off. And this line runs down on each one down to the compressor housing. So let's say I want to run 20 PSI, and I know that if I put 22 or 21 PSI on top of the gates, it'll make 20. So I'll program that into the Mega Squirt, and what it'll do is it'll pulse with this, open this solenoid, pressurize the gates, and then using this pressure transducer, this map sensor, it'll see that it's reached its target 21 PSI, and then what it'll do is it'll close this one, and it'll open this one during pulse width. So both of these will be going open and closing extremely fast. And this one, you can see it tees in here into the inlet. This port is going to be a vent. I don't have the little vent filter in it, but this will just vent to atmosphere. So this is called the dump solenoid. So it'll sit there and toggle both of these to maintain that pressure on top of the wastegates. So it's very fast responding because you're not relying on one solenoid to open and then having to wait with that solenoid hanging open for boost pressure to bleed down. So you can have the 2 solenoids working at the same time, and it's just faster responding. I think it's more precise. You look back there, you can see the wiring harness is half done. Oops, sorry, bumping the camera. I got the boot on it. The engine harness is probably about 80% done. I still have to build, I'm still working on building the other side of the harness, and that'll be mostly for the IO, things like the boost control and some other little miscellaneous stuff. And I'm building some future circuits in there too for my meth kit that's going to go on, and for my little small nitrous shot, that'll all be wired through that too. So it'll have connectors hidden in behind the intake, so I can just tap into that in the future, and it'll still all look nice and clean. It took me quite a while to build that harness, because all the connectors you can see are labeled. They're all covered. Everything's tucked in nice and tight. I hate wiring harnesses where you got excess wire hanging out. You got universal harnesses and they look like that when they're plugged in. It drives me crazy. So I got my dual Spartan 2 widebands from 14.7.com. I got them installed. Both controllers are mounted near the top of the transmission underneath the truck, and then they run through a grommet in the back into the back. Let's see here. Actually got spark plug wires on it. Everything's wired. The coils are wired. I mean, the engine harness is, like I said, is almost done. I just have to get that other harness put together. I've been kind of lazy working on other things, and I still need to get the front chassis harness done, but that's not a priority. That's for like the headlights and the cooling fans and all that. They'll be run through that 22 wire bulkhead. But what I've been working on the most is this. Actually has an interior in it now. Got rid of the stock seats. I put 17-inch wide Kirky aluminum race seats in it. So these things fit me just right. Let's see here. You can see how I tapped into, I used the stock seat brackets so everything would bolt right to the floor, because these Dakotas have a kind of a complicated floor to make brackets too. There's a bunch of braces here and there, and they're not real level, and it's just complicated. So it's easier just to use the factory seat brackets. And I used grade 8 bolts everywhere. Everything's all grade 8. It took me a while to get the seat centered, because the seat brackets aren't centered to the steering wheel. So I had to get that all done, and I made you can see there, I made steel plates to adapt to the seat brackets, and they're all bolted down with grade 8 bolts. Now the big thing with this is you still have to mount the back of the seats. You're always supposed to brace the back of the seats. Well, right now I don't have the cage in it, but I will. I'm definitely putting a cage in it. This truck is going to get a 10-point Docal cage. So, but what I did is I placed them in, so when the rear bar comes in, it'll run right about here, and I'll be able to bolt the seats to that brace. So it'll be kind of tight. Actually, I think the bar will be right about here, because you want your anchor points to be level with your shoulders. So, but they are in, and it's actually comfortable. And all the wiring I still have to do. You can see the taillight wiring there. These are the harnesses for the both wide bands. My fuel pump wire. So you can see back here is the carbon fiber panel. It's kind of dark. I hope you can see it. It's the carbon fiber panel that all the control modules are going to mount to. Originally I was going to mount all the electronics to this board, but there's really going to be too much, because I've got not only the Mega Squirt 3, the MS3X, I'm going to have a Micro Squirt running the I/O firmware, so I can data log even more. I plan on data logging as much as I can, and suspension and all that kind of stuff. So in the future, so I want as much I/O as I can get. And then I'm going to be running another one controlling the Mega Shift firmware that's going to control the 4L80. So you can see the wiring. Now the wiring for the ECM is going to run down the center here. I'll have it all fastened. I just did that for easier serviceability. I'll make it all look good. It'll be nice wire tight and everything. I don't know what I'm going to mount here yet. I'm probably going to mount a fire extinguisher or my fire system. Thinking about putting a 3 nozzle fire system in here just in case. And I did put new carpet in. Made the radio delete panel out of ABS plastic, so that's where I'm going to put more switches, control switches. This is probably going to go away because it's blocking the view of my Raspberry Pi dash, so I'll probably get rid of that. I don't really need it. That's my Innovate AFR gauge. I'll have all that on the display anyway, so I may put that display or that gauge in my square body. We'll walk around here. And you can see the other cookie. And I got my shifter mounted. I made a custom bracket to mount it exactly in a comfortable position for me. So when I'm driving and I've got it pulled down, it's in a real nice comfortable spot. So it's all bolted to the floor. It's not going anywhere. Now, like I said, I was going to mount all the electronics on that back panel, but there's just too much. So what I did is, before I put this dash in, I took a air saw and I cut out probably 70% of the back bracing out of it. Almost all the ducts are gone out of it, the supports. There's not much inside of this dash now. You can't really see back here, but you can see the firewall nice and clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another sub panel that'll be mounted on the firewall. I've still got the glove box and everything, so you'll be able to pull the glove box out, and there'll be all the relays, the boost leash, not boost leash, but the leash electronics, fuse panel, and all that stuff will be back there. Circuit breakers, all that stuff will be back there, so it'll still be easy to get to. It just won't be back here, so all the control modules will be back here, easy to get to if I need to data log or plug a laptop in or anything. So, but there it is. It's starting to look like something. Really, all I have to do to get this truck running is just get the damn thing wired. The harness that's on the engine now is going into a Maven Performance 47-pin bulkhead connector. So I'm using 46 of the 47 pins. So it just takes a while to get everything mapped out, make sure I got everything ran how I want it. I've got a spreadsheet at home on my laptop that all the wires are color coded to their pin designation and everything. So when it comes time to pin this side of it, I'll just be able to refer to my spreadsheet and everything will be great. The engine side harness, I've gone through and verified it and everything, so it's all pinned out correctly. So no worries there. I could probably rig this up and get the damn thing running in a couple hours, but I don't want to do that. I get people all the time bugging me, is it done? Is it done? Is he running? You fired it? And I'm like, no, I haven't done it yet, because I'm taking my time. So I'm getting ready to put in my order in the next week or so for both the micro squirts. I get those coming, get those wired in, and I'll be able to get the majority of the wiring finished. I need to get my switches ordered. Probably going to use those Daystar real nice switches everybody uses. Put all those in there. I need to get the rest of the gauges for my dash. I want to put a mechanical boost gauge and oil pressure gauge on each side of the dash, the display, just so I can have a quick mechanical reference if I'm looking at something else on the digital display. So haven't done much else to it, so I've just been working on the interior. It took me quite a while to get those seats in because, like I said, the brackets weren't centered, so it just took a lot of trial and error, especially to get the right driver's position. So I get that wiring harness done, get all the control modules done, throw some fuel in it, and we should be ready to make some noise. Get my fat ass in here. Oh, Sorry for bumping the camera. But you can see right here, I think it's a good driving position. These are a little close to the dash, but I'm not worried about that. I'll be strapped in. So the biggest thing with this is you want to make sure you're down low enough when you put these in. You have to figure on the fact that you're going to be wearing a helmet. So you're going to have a couple extra inches around your head that you have to compensate for. And as I sit here, I probably have about 5-6 inches at least from the top of my head to the top of the cab. So I think I'll be good. And my shifter, it's in a nice comfortable position. But there we go. That's an update. Definitely going to have more content coming. So now that I've actually been able to get, the biggest thing is I was waiting to get the carpet in so I could get the seats in. And I couldn't put the seats in until the carpet was in finally. And then my shifter. And I knew I was going to run the wiring over the carpet, so I couldn't start running the wiring. And it was just, one little thing was holding me up. So I got the carpet. I've had a couple people ask me. I've got the carpet from eBay user Automat Store. I'll put a link down in the description. Super fast shipping. I think it was like $160, and I had it in like 2 days. And it fits really well. It's formed really well to the floor. I've done a lot of carpet kits, and a lot of them aren't that good. They're not formed right to the transmission tunnel, or you got to trim 8 inches off of each side. This was pretty spot on. I think I had to trim 1 inch in the front, 1 inch in the back, and 3/4 of an inch on this side, and that side was perfect. So I'm really happy with it. It lays down nice. It looks good. It doesn't have, I ordered it specifically without the thick backing pad because I wanted the weight savings. Like this carpet here easily weighs half of what the carpet and pad that I took out, the factory stuff. So it's super lightweight. These seats, the seats with both brackets, the aluminum brackets, both of these weigh less than one of the factory seats. So super lightweight, and they're comfortable too. I was kind of worried about how they were going to feel, but they're actually pretty comfortable. They do make covers. I am going to put covers on them, especially for in the summer, because you don't want to set in a frying pan. Alrighty. That's my update.